Okay, great. So welcome to today's webinar, and this is an informational webinar focusing on the Caribbean and Americas region, and it's titled Uplifting Procurement Capabilities, and it's really about the different routes to MCIPS. Savita, I wondered if you'd like to just introduce yourself to begin with.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. I know it's quite early for you. I think it's about 10 o'clock in the Caribbean. We are expecting a lot more people, but because people are leaving meetings and coming into others, we should be seeing people coming in soon. I'm Savita Mace. I have a few hats. I am the general manager for the Caribbean region. I'm a professor at Schema University for their master's program in procurement and supply chain, and I lecture at Durham and Sussex as a visiting lecturer. As many of you know, I have had a 25-year career in procurement and supply chain across the world. Yeah, it's great to connect with a lot of you today on screen. So I hope you get out of today what you're hoping to. And yeah, we'll talk again later in the webinar.
Great, thanks, Savita. So I'm Peter Richardson. I work as a senior business and partnership manager at CIPS. Been with CIPS for the past 8 years, and a lot of my work is around advising organisations about global learning solutions and also CIPS advisory services consultancy work. Okay, so Savita, I think I'll just start by introducing CIPS, who we are, where we are, just to kind of give some context for those who are perhaps less familiar with the organisation. So CIPS stands for the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. We are a membership organisation, the world's largest professional body serving procurement and supply, and that global network consists of around 200,000 people, which covers over 150 countries. We've been doing this since 1932, so over 90 years of teaching and learning and innovation in procurement and supply chain management. And we have a royal chartership, so we are the only organisation that can award the globally recognised accreditation MCIPS, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Not everyone knows that CIPS is a charity, so as a non-for-profit, any surplus revenues we generate through our learning programs, we reinvest back into for good of the profession type activities. You can see on the map here where we are. And I did wonder if Savita wanted to come in here and just tell us a little bit about the Caribbean region here, which is relatively new to CIPS, and a bit of the history there and what's going on.
Yeah, unlike the other areas, for the people on the screen today, CIPS is quite established in obviously Europe, Africa, and these other areas, and established in terms of a massive membership base, conferences, networking, branches, etc. And while the Caribbean, in particular Trinidad, has had a sort of chapter or branch, as they call it, it hasn't been very active. And this year, when I joined to kind of lead this assignment in April, we thought we'd invest in a whole one-time equivalent, so a whole person, in terms of one head count in the Caribbean, and she is based in Trinidad. And we'll also invest in the branch. So now we have volunteers in a branch that's represented. So there's somebody from Jamaica, Guyana, people from Trinidad. We have a waiting list of volunteers. And when we do our AGM, when the CIPS committee do their AGM, I think it's in early January, it will be posted. Then we can have, if you would like to be a volunteer, then you can go on the sort of waiting list. So the Caribbean has 5 study centers. And that's where people go to do their qualifications if they want to. And the first ever conference is happening in Trinidad. We did one in June in Guyana. We're doing one in Trinidad this year, which is next month. And then we'll take it to either Jamaica or St. Lucia next year. So that's a little bit about the Caribbean. We have about 1,000 active CIPS members. So in terms of fully qualified MCIPS, students across the Caribbean who are within their journey at the moment, or some have lapsed and haven't renewed. So the landscape, although quite small compared to Africa and Australasia or even Europe, it is one of the regions that CIPS really wants to sort of help level up in terms of skill set and make people agnostic in their skills across industries, so that you're not stuck in the same industry for 20 years in your job. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about leading the Caribbean strategy, and it's amazing that we have a group of volunteers, and they're actually helping us a lot for the conference, who can help us lead this kind of ambition for the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's great, Savita. So, as Savita said, this represents a commitment to the region. It was in response to demand that we found in that region. As Savita said, there's already an active kind of branch there with volunteer members and also a community of those that are members of CIPS. So it's just a case of talking through today some of the opportunities to get involved, some of the up and coming events, but really importantly, the focus of today's calls is to talk about the globally recognized accreditation that CIPS offer, MCIPS, what that means, how you obtain it. And Savita's going to talk to us a bit later about her own experience of gaining that accreditation and what it did for her. And as I said, I've got a slide on the end that are a few dates for diaries that really kind of outline the up and coming events that, again, you may want to get involved in. So just in terms of CIPS, again, just to frame the conversation in terms of background and so on, you'll see just some examples of who we work with here. And many are in the private sector. As you see on the left, we're privileged to work in a lot of organisations that are very well recognised in the private sector. On the right-hand side of the screen, you see some of the global world governments we work with. So Scottish Government, for example, we do a lot of work for the Ministry of Defence, the NHS in the UK, the government of Bangladesh and Singapore, for example, and France and so on. And again, if you look at the bottom part of the screen, you'll see examples of who we work with. Again, great privilege to work with the likes of the United Nations, the IMF, World Bank Group, and also the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So I mentioned we're a charity, and just to touch on that before we go into a bit more detail on today's main topic, what we do is have something called the CIPS Foundation. That's about funding people through some of our qualifications, and also there's a number of activities that you can find on our website related to that in that charitable space. On the right hand side of the screen, you see referenced a program that's co-funded with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Health Procurement Africa. So that's about training those that work in procurement on the continent of Africa that work in healthcare and are responsible for procuring medicine and medical equipment. So it's making them more effective at that, ultimately to save lives. I include this slide. So the slide deck we will share after the call with those that have attended and registered for today. This is a bit of a menu of some of the, I guess, programs on offer to support organizations and individuals that is now accessible in the Caribbean region. Some of those focus on function, and you'll see in the middle part, these are the things that focus on people. And the kind of subject or core subject of today's webinar is the accredited learning routes to achieving that globally recognized accreditation, MCIPS. So this is what we'll be focusing on. I include this slide because it references what else we do, and as you look through the slides when we send them out after the call, there may be other areas of interest that you want to ask us about in the future. Savita, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, apart from CIPS qualifications and whatever qualifications any of you may have in parallel to a procurement qualification, some of you may have a master's degree or other degrees, agnostic to any industry, agnostic to any job. In particular for procurement, we're seeing that the top 5 skills still in demand, in addition to what you have to learn in your CIPS program, etc. On these topics is still communication skills, negotiation, SRM, supply relationship management skills, critical thinking and sourcing. And as I said, this is agnostic to any industry, any country. As a senior procurement professional, you're going to have to hone in on each of these skills. Luckily, the CIPS program cover all of these. I mean, you could never discount experience, especially in different geographic area. But these are the top skills. And when we did the salary survey earlier in the year, this was one of the results that came back again. And you're going to see these kind of skills coming up again and again.
That's great, Savita. And I guess just a quick question to you, having been through an accredited learning route to MCIPS, to what extent do these in-demand skills appear in the CIPS syllabus?
Yeah, I mean, there's modules in the CIPS syllabus from level 4 to level 6 that contain all of this. I mean, to a lesser extent, critical thinking skills, it would appear in various topics. And I suppose for you and I who are in procurement and supply, critical thinking skills is about that deep commercial acumen that you need to make sound commercial decisions. And those things feature in a qualifications program, because it kind of teaches you methodology, it teaches you techniques and tools, it gives you some real nice frameworks in terms of how do you do that. But I mean, number one is ranked communication, and it goes down to 5. And I suppose, traditionally, I did my CIPS 22 years ago, Peter, and
Mm.
CIPS and all of these qualification-based things back then, they focused on very technical skills. And as you can see, when you go for an interview today, it doesn't matter if you're a buyer or a CPO, they're still looking for that sound communication skills. But luckily, having gone through an evolution, all of these qualifications body, they now feature all of these skills really widely, especially ours in CIPS.
Great. No, that's good to know. Great. Thanks for that, Savita. I guess then, so when we consider MCIPS, so this is a globally recognized accreditation that Savita holds, and she was just referencing some of the content that relates to some of those in-demand skills as identified through the CIPS Global Salary Survey. When we talk about MCIPS, we need to understand really what does that mean, because gaining the accreditation MCIPS is really the output here. It's the end result. And there are different routes to achieving that. But before we look at the different routes, I think it's important just to talk through what it means to have these letters after your name. What does this accreditation mean, firstly, for you as an individual, and what's it going to do for you, but also for the organization you work for, or if you're on here perhaps as a manager with a team that you're considering putting onto one of the learning programs, so you have that professionally accredited workforce. What does it mean for you organizationally? So I'll probably talk through some of this, and Savita, please do chip in or kind of chime in whenever you feel that there's something you want to add in. As I mentioned, if we sort of look at the benefits of MCIPS, a globally recognized professional accreditation, and that's awarded for excellence, knowledge, and experience in procurement and supply chain management. All right. And on the right hand side of the screen, and I'll go through these, but I imagine Savita will have some real life examples that she can bring this to life with from her own career and background and experience with CIPS learning programs. But when we talk about benefits to the individual, of course, going through a formalized learning program is about developing that individual's capability, developing their skills, and building procurement and supply chain best practice, process, and methodology. And it's aligning to that global best practice in different areas of procurement and supply. As I mentioned, in terms of CIPS Global Network, when you join a learning program with CIPS, it's not just about the learning program, it's part of becoming part of the community, part of that global community of procurement professionals. So you get to learn from outside of your own immediate sphere of influence. And we have something called CIPS Connect that we give you access to, and that allows you to leverage our global network of experts. So you can post a problem statement and you can get some feedback from experts all around the world. So it's that peer-to-peer learning component. But really, in terms of gaining MCIPS, it's about showing commitment to your professional development. So I was going to move on to talk about organizational benefits, but I thought I'd just pause there because maybe Savita's got some examples or can add in from her own experience to bring what I've just said to life.
Yeah, I suppose now everything's digital and automated. Students who are studying CIPS, they have that CIPS Connect. But also, how much are we on now, Peter, in terms of branches? How many
Uh,
branches is
I
it?
think we have hundreds of branches all around the world. I haven't
Yeah,
got the
is it
exact number to
400
hand.
or something like that? I
Yeah.
mean, in every country, there's a CIPS branch. For example, there was a branch connect in Trinidad, and there's going to be four sessions next year. So these, apart from the digital medium where you can post questions to CPOs like myself or other senior leadership teams of procurement people, I think when you're a student of CIPS, you join a network and a community of people, and it's called a branch. And there you also have direct contact with people from different industries, etc. And I found that particularly useful. I've been a volunteer of CIPS for 15 years in different countries. And I think I found that kind of community and that camaraderie really important to me. And those are the places that open up doors in my career. So apart from the digital medium of being a student, until the time you get into MCIPS and fully qualified, you do have that network of community and you can learn from people. They have really good guest speakers, etc.
That's great. So it's about getting involved in that in-person basis in those local branches. There's also obviously in today's world the kind of global network through CIPS Connect. I guess another question to you, we talk about benefits to individual of gaining the accreditation MCIPS. This is something you did and something you gained. Did that sort of take your career in a certain direction, or did it give it a certain trajectory once you'd achieved that? Just tell us a bit about your own experience.
I suppose there's two things. I mean, there's the qualifications, and I found out when I went to Guyana and Trinidad that public sector bodies and private sector have defaulted against the CIPS standard. Now, in my early 20s, when I left the Caribbean, none of the organization, public or private, hadn't ever referenced a professional qualification unless you were ACCA or you were MH, so the engineers, the accountants, but no other business related courses ever or companies ever defaulted on a particular qualification. So on one hand, for my personal career, I think when I came to the UK and the default for procurement in terms of the global standard was CIPS, I was quite lucky that I had just finished my CIPS qualifications. And therefore, it immediately triggered me in the almost in the algorithms of companies when I did apply for jobs that I was automatically shortlisted. And having MCIPS is what the algorithms use. So if you're MCIPS, you would automatically get shortlisted by a machine, first of all, and then you go into the HR process. So I think having the MCIPS for me propelled me from a very junior buyer into management very quickly with the Hilton. And then I went on to lead global teams. But then I was FCIPS, I did a master's. So just the qualification itself isn't enough. Obviously, you have to try to switch industries, you have to network, and you have to kind of you can only get out of it what you put in. So if you think having a full qualifications only is going to land you a great job, it's not. You're going to have to really network with people, learn better communication skills, make sure your MCIPS is live, because I don't know if people in the audience know, but we have a professional industry and global registry, and if you have lapsed in your membership, you come off of there. And employers call me all the time when I'm looking for staff. And recruiters say to me, we can't find this person on the registry. And if they're not on the registry, or if they have sent me a list of CVs and I can't find them on the registry, I discount them because they're not MCIPS. So if you are MCIPS, make sure that you are an active member and that then you feature on the global registry. So in a nutshell, Peter, I think having MCIPS definitely opened doors for me. Because it was the standard and it's still the standard, and in the Caribbean it is the standard. But then I gave back a lot. I really networked. I went on to become FCIPS. I became very active, and I was mentoring. And I think people on the call, I think paying forward and being a really active part of your CIPS community is what's going to make you stand out among your peers, among potential recruiters in different industries. So I think that's for me, that's the USP for me.
Very good. Thanks for that, Savita. I guess we'll just look at the left hand of the screen now, which is about the benefits to the organization that you work for if you are MCIPS accredited, or again, if you're a manager on the call considering sponsoring your workforce through to that professional accreditation. Once I've talked through some of the things on the screen, I'll probably come back to Savita in a moment, because Savita being a CPO and worked in many multiple multinational organizations in different locations, will probably also have a view on the other side, what were the benefits for her in the CPO position, hiring staff that had the MCIPS accreditation. So as we see on the screen, if you do have this professionally accredited workforce, it means they've all been through this formalized education program, and that develops consistency in terms of approach, also develops a level of confidence and skill within your team, but also it's about enhancing customer confidence that you've got this highly competent and skilled procurement team. Organizations again will use the fact that they have this established pathway or route for their employees gaining this professional accreditation, MCIPS. They'll use that to retain talent. It's showing that they're going to invest in key people and also to attract talent. So keeping those messages in their recruitment, in their advertising, again, to attract and retain and reward talent. So that's a really big part of it from an organizational perspective as well. But again, if your people, if your employees in your procurement team are MCIPS, it means they are aligning to global best practice, which means then you organizationally, in terms of your procurement function, are also aligning to globally best practice standards. So there are many, many benefits. And again, I'll just turn to Savita with her CPO hat on to see how she's found that, and if there's anything she can say to bring that to life.
I suppose with my CPO hat on, there were a few assumptions I made with my leadership team, and leadership team -1 is that if they were fully qualified, I could have strategic conversations with them without starting over. Yeah, so I can have meetings with people who are fully MCIPS, and we could talk about strategy into corporate objectives, into KPIs for the function, etc. Because I know that they have the formal training, and obviously they would have worked through a lot of cases during their studies, etc. Sometimes it's still abstract, but they understood it. So one assumption I make as a CPO is when I hire MCIPS people, I don't have to start over with the basics, and therefore I can go at a pace where it really suits my functional objectives. And I feel like my return on investment is quicker when I hire MCIPS staff. Now, that doesn't mean that people without MCIPS isn't as sharp or isn't, it just means that we can't speak the same language at the same time. It means that if I talk about category strategy or I talk about something else, it may have a different meaning at that time, and I will have to go back and do some reinterpretation. So that's one of the benefits when I hire MCIPS. The other benefit is that I make an assumption. If you're MCIPS, one, you have no criminal record. You have to keep your ethics on hand. So the thing about MCIPS professionals is that it's a code of ethics. We have to sign up to it. If you're chartered, you are filling in your ethics. And there's a level of professional respect and etiquette there that I don't even have to check on. There's no due diligence. So if somebody's coming into me with MCIPS, there's very few due diligence point I have to do in terms of what they know, what they don't know, etc. So again, my return on investment is quite quicker and it's easier for me.
Right.
And in terms of sort of how resilient do I think this person is now? To write 22 exams, I think is less than that now. It was 22 in my time. I mean, to have gone through a qualification program, any qualification program, be it ACC for accountants or whatever. When you do CIPS and you work through all of the sort of modules in each level, you get to your MCIPS. I know you have the resilience academically and sort of formally to do stuff that I can give you, be it work with stakeholders, sort of roll out SRM plans. So that's one of the benefit for me when I hire MCIPS.
Great. Thanks for that. Again, I think that, it's clear from the bullet points on the screen that as an individual, there's a lot to be gained from this. As an organization, there's a lot to be gained from this. And I think what Savita said on both those counts has brought it to life from her own experience of, as an individual gaining the MCIPS accreditation through lots of hard work, through that qualifications program, and how that opened up doors for her, along with the things she mentioned around networking and volunteering and just being involved and very proactive in that community, but also on the organizational side as someone that was recruiting as a CPO people into her organization, that it sounds to me that those that had those letters after their name would be prioritized perhaps into that recruitment process, but certainly it gave Savita a level of confidence in the people that she was speaking to for those roles. And indeed, when they were in those roles, they were off to a massive head start. And it's that bit about consistency, that you were speaking the same languages and those types of things, I think, and using the same terminology and not having to start from scratch. So obviously loads of benefits there. And I think Savita's really brought that to life, which is great. And I guess the key thing then to ask ourselves is, we've talked about the output here, which is having these letters after your name. We've talked about some of the benefits. So now, next thing we're going to talk about is how do you achieve this? So with MCIPS, there are different routes that exist to obtaining it, to having these letters after your name. And you'll see on the screen, we're going to talk through the three main routes today. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Savita, but I believe you took the qualification, the exam route.
I did, Peter, 22 years ago, nothing else existed. It was only, it was, it was only a qualifications route. So
Right.
I think students today have it so much easier.
Yeah, and I think that that's testament to, as the world has progressed, it's testament to different learning styles, different learning preferences, different life circumstances, why new routes have come into existence to serve different types of people, and all those things I've just mentioned. So the exam route we can actually talk about first, seeing as this is the route Savita took. So the exam route is this qualifications route, and it's the one that's in the middle here in blue. And it's a very sort of traditional academic route. And there are actually five levels, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the most common highest entry point is level 4, the level 4 diploma. And to achieve MCIPS on that route, you have to complete level 4 diploma. You then have to complete level 5, which is advanced diploma, and level 6, professional diploma. And once you've completed all those three, you can then upgrade your membership and get listed on the CIPS website as having achieved MCIPS chartered professional status. And that means you can then use those letters after your name, identifying you potentially as an employee of choice, but certainly identifying you as someone that's been through that formalized education program, been assessed and been awarded this accreditation for global best practice. Okay, so that's it.
Peter,
Yes.
question for you. I genuinely don't know the answer.
Hmm.
Many, many years ago, we used to start professionals with X amount of work experience on level 4. Do we still do that?
Yeah, so on the exam route, the highest entry point and the most common entry point is level 4.
Okay.
And what we'll see when we talk about the other routes to Vita is there are some faster track routes available now, and they also take different sort of forms as well. But on the exam route, you can't say, for example, start at level 6. You have to start at level 4. You have to complete 4, 5, and 6, and that's what allows you then to gain the MCIPS accreditation. And as you'll see on the left, there's a few bullet points that describe it on a very top level, but um, really what it consists of are textbooks, e-learning units, and then they're assessed via examinations, so multi-choice examinations and also essay type examinations, and those are often invigilated remotely now, so we can have some technology in there, meaning you don't necessarily have to go and physically be at an exam center. You can sit and take the exam on your computer anywhere in the world. What we'd also tie into these often is tutor-led revision sessions, which help coach participants on exam content and tips for success. On that particular route, there are 8 exams on the diploma, 8 on the advanced diploma, and 7 on the professional diploma. So all in all, 23 books and 23 exams to work through to achieve MCIPS. So it's a fairly heavy academic route. 12 months is conservative. It can take between 3 and 5 years to achieve, but each of these is a qualification in its own right. So even just completing level 4 means you then have a diploma in procurement and supply and diploma level membership at CIPS. Okay, so that's the exam route. Now I'm going to contrast that with the one at the top here, these orange bars. So this is called the applied learning route. It has two levels. The lower level is called practitioner here, and the practitioner level, it takes the syllabus and the learning outcomes from the diploma on the exam route, and it mirrors them into this program. Now, the key difference is there are no textbooks. There are no exams as such. In the applied learning route, the content, the knowledge is delivered by a series of expert delivered workshops, and they are scheduled over a period of 12 months. And people are then assessed on assignments and project work. And the idea behind the assignments and the project work is that they actually measure the participants' ability to practically apply theory from the classroom to real life challenges within the workplace. Now, the upper of the two levels there for the applied learning route is called advanced practitioner. Advanced practitioner is delivered over 18 months, and it takes the syllabus and learning outcomes from both level 5 and level 6 on the exam route into one cohesive program here called advanced practitioner. Again, the content is delivered through a series of expert-led workshops, and the assessment comes in the form of assignment and project work. So at the end of this is a 10,000 word project, for example, and it's an improvement project. It's about examining a workplace process, drawing out a conclusion that's really a recommendation for a new, more efficient way of working that perhaps mitigates risk, or it basically creates a benefit directly back into the business. So the content, the learning outcomes are the same along this route. It's just it has that different way of delivering content through tutor-led workshops, and that difference of actually assessing not by timed formalized examinations, but by coursework, so assignments and project work. Now, the output is the same. At the end of the advanced practitioner, if you've been successful, you can also then upgrade to full MCIPS chartered professional status. Okay, so we can see that this is a route that's come into existence to accommodate different learning styles. Not everyone likes formalized timed exams. This allows for that. And the other benefit here of the applied learning route really is from the organization's perspective that you work for. If they're sponsoring you through, if they're paying for you to go on such a program, there's a really clear return on investment for them because of those assignments and that project piece that are identifying perhaps risk within the supply chain and then making recommendations on how to mitigate that risk, or identifying a more efficient way of working, or looking at an area where they can create a savings. So there's a real return on investment on that particular route. We talked about fast track. So just to note there, again, you'll remember on the exam route, the highest entry point was level 4. You couldn't come in at 5 and 6. You have to do 4 first. On the applied learning route, you can look to possibly bypass the practitioner program. And there are 3 ways basically to gain access to the advanced practitioner. So if you have in the past done the level 4 diploma on that exam route, that allows you to, if you wanted to switch routes. So basically you could gain automatically eligibility to an advanced practitioner program if you hold the level 4 diploma here. Okay. Secondly, of course, as you would expect, if you've been through practitioner and completed it, you then go on to advanced practitioner. But here's the third way, and this is the fast track route, is this competency assessment. So if you've been in procurement a long time, you're confident, you've looked at both syllabuses and you think, well, actually, the advanced practitioner program's right for me, then you can actually pay to access an online competency assessment. If you pass that assessment at the right level, then you can gain direct access to advanced practitioner, meaning you bypass level 4 and you can gain MCIPS chartered professional status in just 18 months. So that's a bit of a fast track route that you may consider. So those are the 2 most common routes that are going to apply to most people. I've been with CIPS 8 years and I've seen the applied route applied learning route gain in traction and popularity year on year. Okay, so this is really uh, very, very popular in terms of a route to achieving that globally recognized accreditation, MCIPS. I'm going to talk about the management entry route in a moment, but I was just going to pause there to see if Savita had any questions about the applied learning route. Like Savita said, when she took her route to MCIPS, it was only the exam route. Any thoughts on the applied learning route, Savita, or any questions you'd like to ask on that?
Oh yeah, I suppose it ages me that there were no other routes. I mean, as a CPO, I have put my staff through the applied, we call it corporate learning or applied learning route. One, and I know I talk about return on investment a lot, but as a CPO, I want the quickest return on investment on my money, and therefore I could pay for people to do SIPS 22 exams or whatever it is now, 18 exams, but that's going to take them 3 years or 4 years. If I have professionals who are really sharp, who are really good, I'm going to invest in them. To do applied route, it takes about 2 years. And also, what I love about applied route is that they were able to be in classrooms with other people in different industries, and they were able to do best practice and share. And actually, I found that there was one particular lady in my team, and she made so many different contacts. Actually, she left the role after a year of finishing it. She left the role and she got this amazing job. Of course, not in my company, but it means like for her professional development, it really worked well for her. And it's because somebody she met on the program offered her a job. But it just shows it bodes well for her that she was able to network. She finished her program and she was able to move on and get a better job. So while I lost her, at least I got her a year after, and I got somebody really skilled. I got MCIPS. So yeah, so I think from an employer perspective, I'd much rather invest in the corporate or applied learning, as you call it, than the exam route. But I suppose I suppose some employers wouldn't have the money to invest in their employees, and therefore people would do the exam routes themselves if their employers aren't paying for it.
Yeah, so I think both are valid options. I guess that they're just, as I mentioned before, accommodate different learning styles, perhaps different budget allowances, whether people prefer exams or prefer that kind of coursework, essay type assessment. But some exciting news at the end of this, and we'll go into it in a bit more detail. But what's in planning at the moment is to actually have a program in the Caribbean region on the corporate award applied learning route starting in spring 2026. So we'll give you a few more details on that towards the end of this webinar. We have regular intakes in the UK on this. In fact, we have regular intakes at the practitioner and advanced practitioner every single month in the UK, and various other timetables and intakes available all throughout the world. But this is going to be a first for the Caribbean and Americas region in spring 2026. So just bear that in mind, and we'll let you know a bit more about that at the end of the call. But it's a good opportunity if people do consider that as being an option or a preference in terms of the route to achieving their globally recognized accreditation, then this is going to be coming to your region. So quite exciting. I hope you'll agree. Now, just to touch on the last thing for this particular slide, we see a sort of slightly different route at the bottom of the screen here. And this is not a learning program, but it's called the management entry route. Okay, so the management entry route is an experience-based route. It only really applies to those that have been in a very strategic level procurement role for 5, 10 years, show really good career progression on their CV, are operating that strategic level, and perhaps they haven't had time to pick up a textbook, or SIPS has just bypassed them, but they're in a really senior role now and they want the accreditation. So this is an experience route that starts by that individual submitting some documents to SIPS assessment team for review, and that includes a CV, a job description, and an org chart. So that's the first step. Once that then is agreed that from looking at the CV and those documents, this person is the right level in terms of their career and job role for the management entry route, then they move on to an online assessment. So that online assessment benchmarks the individual against SIP's competency framework that you may have heard of, called the Global Standard in Procurement and Supply. And following that, they also then have an interview with a CIPS assessor. Okay, so there's no learning as such. This is more about trying to establish that through your career, through your experience, you already have the knowledge that allows CIPS awarding body to award you that accreditation MCIPS. Okay, so it's only, as I said, going to apply to a handful of people in any organization, but it's worth knowing about because if the people at the top of the organization have the accreditation, it really inspires those that work in the organization to work towards the same outcome and also gain that accreditation.
Um, Peter, I
Sure.
recently, it's not recently now, it's 2 years, maybe 2.5, 3 years now. So I coach some of the chief procurement officers when they want to do their MER. So many of you know Daniel DeVoe. He's the head of Shell, the CPO at Shell. So he was formerly CFO and he moved into procurement maybe about 10 years ago, and he wanted to become MCIPS. And I said to him, I think the best route is MER. He is MER, actually. And in my last role, I hired a lady who was a head lawyer who had moved into procurement about 10 years before that in defense. And actually, I put her through MER as well in terms of I thought that was the best route for her. So I would say if you're CPO -1 level, and you've had that kind of strategic overview of procurement. I mean, the slide says 5 years, but I mean, I suppose there's a question on the chat about entrepreneurship. So I'm not sure if the person is asking about if you're an entrepreneur and not an employee of a company. It really doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur and you are you're doing obviously if you're an entrepreneur you are buying, you're trading all the time, etc. And if you meet the criteria, that's not a problem. So I think MER is really, I mean, there are I think there's 4 people right now in the Caribbean that's asked us to coach them in terms of what needs to be done for them to go through MER, and they are at CPO level. So we'll be doing a session at the conference and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Wonderful. Thanks, Savita. Okay, so that is kind of an overview of the three main routes, and I hope that's clear. That sort of traditional exam route, academic route, textbook exam, the applied learning route, more about those interactive expert-led workshops, and then the assessments with assignment and project work. And then that third route, management entry route, or MER as we call it, which is for those senior people that are going through the process that we see in the green boxes and also delivers on the MCIPS accreditation. So just to remember, we're going to be sending this slide deck out to everyone on today's call and everyone that registered. And the following 3 slides kind of go into a bit more detail into each of these routes. And I'm probably not going to go into that right now, but let's just have a quick look at them and you can kind of study them a bit more when the slides come out. But this is the applied learning route. The paragraph at the top really captures the essence of the program. So practical learning workshops delivered by experts are followed by context-specific assignments and an improvement project designed to drive learning directly back into your organization and a tangible return on investment. Okay, so you'll see practitioner, the 5 modules. It's very foundational in terms of the content you'll see from the titles, and you'll see the assignments running along the bottom. So that's delivered over a period of 12 months. There's digital pre-learning for each module, and successful completion results in CIPS diploma level membership. Okay, now just again a brief look at the advanced practitioner. You will see that there are 6 modules, and again spread over 10 classroom days, typically delivered virtually, sometimes in person. But again, the assignments and the project running along the bottom, that is the 10,000 word project piece that delivers the direct benefit back into your sponsoring organization. That's delivered about over 18 months. And really, again, you'll see from those titles of the modules, this is about elevating your level of competency from that tactical operational level up to that much more professional, advanced professional level of competency. And successful completion of the advanced practitioner leads to that full MCIPS chartered professional status. Very high success rate on this program of 95%. That's not testament to it being easy. That's testament to the level of support that's wrapped around this. So expert tutor support, we assign a customer success manager that becomes a point of contact throughout. On this project piece, we have tutor one-on-ones to coach and mentor you with that piece of work. So a heavily supported managed program that leads to really high success rates. The next slide, again, I won't go into too much detail. This is the qualifications exam route, the one that Savita took some years ago. And This is where the highest entry point's level 4, so you have to do 4, 5, and 6. These are the different modules you'll see in level 4. There are 8 modules. Each one of these represents a textbook, an exam, and an e-learning module. So you work through this. There's the core units in level 5, and then you can choose electives and become a bit more specialized. And that's a similar approach for level 6. So once you do complete 4, 5, 6, you gain full MCIPS chartered professional status, okay? Level 2 and 3, we don't have as much demand in these areas, but these are for your kind of procurement administrators, those perhaps looking to get a bit more knowledge before moving into the level 4. So level 4, highest entry point and also most common entry point. Management entry route, again, I'm not going to read through this because we'll share the slides and have a look at that. But as we've talked about, really, it's about that application, CV, job description, org chart, online assessment and interview, and then the results and outcome. Couple of really good bits of testimonial there about how people have gone through it and benefited from it. So if that's a route you're considering, it's probably worth reading through those to bring it to life. Okay, then. So just looking at this, we're going to play a video in a minute that will capture again the graduation that you see some photos off on the screen here. So any of those routes that lead you to achieve MCIPS will allow you to then attend CIPS graduation. Now, we do have different graduations all over the world. The photos are on the screen are from CIPS UK graduation, which is held annually in Peterborough Cathedral, and you'll see probably from the smiles on these faces that it is a real day of success. It's a day of celebrating success, of networking, and of celebrating the achievement of gaining this globally recognized accreditation. So just to bring that to life a bit, and please do tell me if you can hear the sound on this. I'm just going to stop sharing temporarily here while I switch over to a video. And on that particular video, we will see Savita features in it, which is quite interesting. And she's talking about her own experience. So again, bringing that to life. So I'm just going to share that now. So hopefully you can see that. And Savita, when I press play, if you can hear sound, just give me a thumbs up so I know our audience can hear this.
As a member of the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, CIPS, no matter where you are in the world, you will always be a part of a global network that shares your common interests and challenges. CIPS is a not-for-profit membership organisation and the awarding body for the procurement and supply profession, committed to driving positive change and improving professional standards worldwide. Being a member of CIPS means you are a key part of that mission, helping to improve ethical and sustainable supply, promoting and encouraging equality, diversity and inclusion, and supporting anti-slavery in supply chains. CIPS offers dedicated support and tailored benefits for you at every stage of your career, from student to MCIPS and beyond. Membership demonstrates your professional potential to employers, clients and peers, and will boost your career prospects and secure the recognition you deserve. Develop your knowledge and expertise, enhance your performance and advance your career.
CIPS has been there in my journey, in my career, ever since day one, and it adds real value.
Without having my MCIPS, I don't think I would be at the level that I'm at today without it.
I'm now able to understand the strategic implication of procurement decisions, manage complex procurement projects, build a strong relationship with suppliers, and identify and mitigate the risk.
Shape your future with confidence, with access to practical support and resources.
I had an amazing time when I studied. My tutors were brilliant. They really brought the subject to life, and it really caught my interest.
With the chartered status, you do the ethics test, which is a brilliant addition to the qualification because it just gives you more in terms of modern slavery, understanding like diversity and inclusion, challenges around environment, sustainability.
Achieve career success as demand for qualified procurement and supply professionals increases in today's ever-changing world.
So being a part of CIPS, I believe, has really helped progress and fast-track my career to date.
It's actually widened the roles I can apply for.
Being MCIPS sets you apart from your peers. You are chartered. You are on par with the chartered accountants, with the chartered engineers. You are a chartered buyer. That makes you the expert in the room.
Be a part of a global network of procurement and supply professionals to get connected, build your network, and to give back.
Being part of a global community of professionals is really important. So there's lots of different opportunities that come your way relevant to expanding your network all through the sort of community that's built around the CIPS membership.
Then the branch events, courses, workshop to enhance your knowledge on the topic, and also it gives the opportunity to network with your peers during that courses.
It's brilliant to be able to use the community to talk to other people within the profession and knowledge share.
It's a fabulous networking opportunity as well.
Evidence your professionalism and demonstrate credibility.
It shows that you are a credible person in your field. It is a globally recognized qualification, and being chartered gives you that additional tick that actually you are investing in continually learning.
It shows to employees that you're a committed procurement professional.
CIPS membership, a world of possibilities, with you every step of the way.
So that was great, and good to see Savita on there. I think one of the things that really resonates that you say on there, Savita, is about how having MCIPS makes you, I think you said, the expert in the room, which I think's a nice way to capture what it means. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Well, I have heard, typically procurement reports into either global ops or finance, and I have heard people, for example, the CFO saying, oh, we have the expert in procurement. And throughout my career, people have called me that. And then in turn, I have called my team that. So I would say to stakeholders, I'm sending an expert, fully qualified MCIPS. And it does give, like Cobrol said in the video, it gives that credibility. Because, when people hire accountants and we hire finance team, you don't ever hire people to run your finances without ACCA or CIMA or stuff like that, right? And by extension, they're expecting my team to be fully qualified. So it's great for me to say I'm sending you fully qualified MCIPS people to negotiate or do whatever. So we are the experts in the room.
Brilliant. Well said. Thanks, Savita, for that. So then, again, we're just going to launch a poll in a minute, but I'll be sending this out. It'll have the link to that video if you want to watch it again, if you want to share it with anyone. I think it really does capture what CIPS is all about, and you too can be part of that by getting involved in one of these accredited learning programs. Okay, so we are just have a small poll here, which I'm just going to launch. So there should be some questions popping up on your screen. There's only 3 sort of fairly simple questions there. So if those on the call can just put in whatever answer they think that would apply to them. And we'll just leave it on the screen there for a couple of minutes while you're looking through. While that's going on, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's up and coming. So here are some dates for your diaries. And again, as we talked about the Caribbean region at the beginning and how Savita being assigned to that region as a general manager is really a kind of statement of commitment from CIPS to that region and supply more content and localized programs. So what you'll see on the screen are some notable dates, up and coming things. So Savita and I will be hosting a second webinar on the 27th of November. That's going to be focusing a little bit more in on developing consistency in procurement and skills. So it focuses on CIPS group membership offering and CIPS skills training. So there's a link there where you can go in and register for that. Again, I'll be sending out these slides, so you probably can't click directly through on what you're seeing on the screen now, but when you get the copy of the slides, you can click into that and register for that event. Again, there'll be a further webinar on the 4th of December, this time on aligning your procurement function to global best practice, and that's looking at the Procurement Excellence Program. And on that particular webinar, we're going to have our General Manager from USA, Harold, coming on to join me in that particular one to talk about the Procurement Excellence Program and aligning function to best practice. The other thing to mention, as I talked about when I was talking about the routes to MCIPS is starting in the Caribbean and Americas in spring 2026, we are going to be bringing the applied learning route to your region. So this is a first. It's a really good opportunity for you to access that different way of learning. You'll remember that's interactive workshops with CIPS tutors, followed by assignments and project work. Never been done in the Caribbean or America before. So that's coming to you. Any interest in that, any inquiries, if you want to see the syllabus, if you want to express an interest, drop me an email. My email's on the screen there, or you can reach out to Savita. And then finally, and Savita may want to talk a little bit about this, but there's the CIPS Caribbean Conference and Awards 2025 coming up on the 10th of December. Again, a first for the region. And there's a link there where you can go through to register and book your tickets. Savita, do you want to talk about the conference at all?
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm talking about this week. So the first CIPS Caribbean conference is taking place at the Hyatt in Trinidad, December 10th. We have actually sold out, and we only have 2 sponsorship spaces left. So so if your company wants to be a sponsor, you can get involved now, but we don't have any more individual tickets. Unless you're part of a company that has already sponsored. If you go on the website, and the website is there, Peter, maybe you can share it on the chat if there's a chat here.
Sure.
I think there's a chat here. I can paste it in. But it is again. So when I took on this assignment to lead this strategy for CIPS in the Caribbean, I suppose my intent was to do 2 things. One, to build a community where procurement professionals could talk to each other, could share information across industries. But like you just showed, to have syndicated programs where multiple companies within the Caribbean can study together. Because it's funny, people say the Caribbean, but you have micro cultures, you have different islands, different countries. And I really wanted best practice to be shared. And I want people to stay within the Caribbean. So I want the talent to be kept there, to grow. Guyana is booming, and there's a labor shortage everywhere, in Trinidad, in Jamaica, in Barbados, in Guyana. So one of the things they asked me for back in June was, could we put on a conference where we have international speakers, etc. And that's what we're doing. We have international speakers coming. We have Caribbean speakers, great Caribbean speakers and leaders. We have the Office of the Prime Minister, the press office from the Prime Minister that's covering the event. We have 2 government ministers that's coming. I mean, it's going to be amazing. It's the first time in the Caribbean that CIPS is doing this. And we will do one every year. But I suppose because it's the first one, we had to make sure that that people got out of it what we want them to get out of it, which is build that community, share best practice. We've given a lot of free tickets to students. Again, this is about access and fair and transparent access. You know, we're a charity, CIPS is a charity, and all money that we get goes back within into the community. So I'm really proud of this. So if you haven't booked, I'm sorry, it's sold out. But if your company wants to be a sponsor, then you can get your tickets via your company. So if you have any inquiries, you can drop me a line. I'll just put my email here. If you don't know it, it's on the chat.
So I think, yeah, that's really exciting what Savita's saying there, and this really is, as I kind of said throughout, a commitment to the region, and this conference being a first, and there's going to be a continuation. There's already a 2026 conference in planning. So yeah, as I think the message is here, CIPS is committing to the region. It's bringing in new programs, new activities, webinars, conferences. So this is your chance to get involved and be part of this global community.
Yeah, that really nicely sums it up, Peter.
Great. Okay. Well, look, thanks for today. Thanks for joining, Savita. Thanks for the audience to coming in. What we'll be doing is sending out a link to a recording of today's webinar that you can share with colleagues or anyone else you think would benefit from seeing this video. It will also have these links in here that are on the screen, which are probably quite useful, just particularly in terms of those up and coming informational webinars that are going to focus on slightly different areas of how to develop your people and function in the Caribbean and the Americas. You've also got my email address on there. Savita's put hers in the chat, so reach out to us, plus a link there to more information about that up and coming conference. But as for for today. Thanks for joining, and we look forward to seeing you again on a future webinar.